I got the divorce news in a text while I was still overseas in the desert. 15 years of marriage just ended with a message on my phone. My name is Marcus. I'm 45, a master sergeant with the 101st Airborne. I'd been in Afghanistan for 5 months when Sarah decided she couldn't wait anymore. The text popped up on my screen, short and cold. We need to be grown-ups about this. The message itself was 4 short sentences. She'd already started the divorce, she'd already taken all the money out of our bank account, and her new guy, Kevin, had already moved into our house in Boise. I read the text twice, locked my phone, took a quick shower in the shared bathroom, got dressed for work, and didn't tell anyone. Later that night, back in my room, I replied to her text with one word, "Okay." That was it. No arguing, no begging, no threats. My roommate, Diaz, could tell something was wrong. "You all right, man?" he asked, still reading his book. "Yeah," I said, "just some stuff going on back home." He nodded, and that was that. Guys in the military know when to leave things alone. Honestly, I wasn't completely surprised. In the 6 months before I left, things had changed. Little things. Sarah stopped asking about my day, started staying late at the vet clinic where she worked the front desk, and started going to the gym 4 times a week but never seemed tired. New clothes showed up in her closet, she mentioned new friends I never met, and she changed the password on her phone. I didn't say anything, didn't start checking her phone or following her. That's just not me. But I wasn't dumb either. So, I made some quiet moves of my own. Nothing crazy, just being careful. I put important papers in a storage unit across town. My birth certificate, our marriage license, the deed to the house, just my name on it thanks to the VA loan, and my military benefit stuff. I also moved my grandpa's watch and my mom's old jewelry to the same place, things that meant something to me. Plus, I opened my own account at a different bank and started putting some of my paycheck in there, not enough for her to notice, but enough so I wouldn't be starting from zero if things went bad. The night before I flew out, she hugged me at the airport and said, "Be safe, okay?" Her eyes were dry, like she was saying goodbye to someone at work, not her husband going off to war. I should have known then, but part of me still hoped I was wrong. I wasn't. What she didn't know was that I'd been getting ready for this, and what she didn't understand was that I don't start fights, but I always finish them. I first met Sarah at a friend's barbecue back in 2012. I was home between deployments, staying with my buddy Marco in Boise. She was finishing nursing school but ended up working at a dental office instead, said it was less stressful. We got married 8 months later. Sarah always said she was proud of my service, even though she never really got what it was like. Her dad was a bank manager, her brother worked with computers. Nobody in her family was in the military. She'd sometimes ask when I was going to get a real job, not realizing that after 15 years, the Army was my career, not just something I was doing for a while. We bought our house in 2016. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. 3 bedrooms, a small backyard, quiet neighborhood. My name was the only one on the mortgage because of the VA loan, but I added her to the deed because that's what married people do, share things. My dad died a year after we got married. Heart attack while shoveling snow. My mom passed away 3 years later from lung cancer, even though she never smoked. They left me some money, not a ton, but enough for Sarah and me to pay off our student loans and still have a little extra. During our marriage, I deployed 4 times, twice to Iraq and twice to Afghanistan. Every time I came home, Sarah seemed a little more distant, a little more restless, like she was acting a part she'd outgrown. "I didn't sign up to be a military wife," she told me once after I mentioned maybe staying in for another 4 years. "I'm tired of being alone all the time." I understood that, I really did, but the Army was the only place I ever felt like I truly belonged. I was good at my job, and people depended on me. In 2019, things started to change. Small stuff at first. Sarah got annoyed when I called during her girls' nights out, started talking about how her friend Olivia had divorced her husband and was now living her best life, and started saying we didn't really have much in common anymore. I suggested talking to someone. She said we were fine, just going through a phase. Then came the late nights at work, the weekends away with friends I'd never met, the new clothes, and the gym membership she barely used. I should have said something, but that's not how I do things, never have been. My dad taught me to think before I speak, to be sure before I act. So, I watched and I got ready quietly because my gut told me something was coming, and in this life, you learn to trust your gut. 2 weeks after getting the divorce text, I was in the mess hall when my phone buzzed, a notification from our bank app. Another withdrawal, $92,000, almost all the money left. I put my fork down and opened the app. Our joint account was down to $25. Our savings, the $50,000 we'd saved over the years, was gone, completely moved to an account I didn't recognize. Miller, one of the guys from my unit, glanced over. Bad news. I locked my phone. Nah, just some account stuff. That night, I called our bank from the phone center on base. Turns out Sarah had been moving money for weeks, starting with small amounts and then bigger ones. The big transfers started the day after I deployed. I hung up and stood in the hallway for a long time, watching guys laughing, calling their kids, their wives, their parents, normal life happening all around me while my own was falling apart. That's when Diaz found me. Heard from Rodriguez that you looked like you'd seen a ghost at dinner, he said. What's up? I don't usually share personal stuff, but Diaz had helped me out of a tough spot in Afghanistan once. I trusted him. My wife emptied our accounts and moved her boyfriend into our house, I said. Sent divorce papers while I was on patrol last week in a text. Diaz didn't give me the usual, I'm sorry, or, that's rough. He just asked, what's your plan? Not really sure yet, I said. He nodded. Let me know if you need anything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled out my laptop and logged into our home security system, something Sarah probably forgot I could do from far away. The cameras showed a truck I didn't recognize in our driveway, a guy I'd never seen before walking our dog, using my favorite coffee mug, and wearing my Seahawk sweatshirt. And there was Sarah, laughing in the kitchen I'd redone myself during my last leave. Something inside me changed, not exactly anger, but something colder, clearer. I closed the laptop and grabbed my phone, making a mental list. Call Ethan, an army buddy who became a lawyer. Check the details of the VA loan. Ask my sergeant about emergency leave. Look at the papers for refinancing the house, something Sarah mentioned last year, and check the security on my military pension accounts. I didn't feel sad anymore. Didn't even feel angry. I felt focused, like I was planning a mission. This wasn't about feelings now. This was about strategy. At 5 a.m., before my shift started, I sent a text to Ethan with the message, "Need legal help, private and fast." He replied an hour later, "Call me, secure line only." When I hung up from that call, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I didn't need to yell, I didn't need to threaten, I didn't even need to talk to her right away. I just needed to wait and watch and let her own actions trap her. 2 months later, I was back in the States. I didn't tell Sarah I was coming home, no calls, no texts. Just checked into a cheap motel downtown in Boise under a fake name and called Ethan. We met at a diner about 15 miles out of town. "You look like hell," he said, sliding into the booth. "Feels like it too," I replied. Ethan handed me a thick folder. Everything we talked about, the house deed, loan papers, bank statements, and this. He pulled out a separate paper. "Found something interesting when I was looking into your money stuff. It's a form to refinance the house with your signature on it, but it's not really your signature. Someone tried to copy it but messed up some details. The middle initial is wrong, and the way the letters are written isn't yours." "Sarah did this?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Ethan nodded. 3 months ago. Used the house's value to take out $350,000. My signature is needed for that since the VA loan is only in my name. She faked my signature, took out a loan against our house, then emptied our accounts and wants to divorce me, I said. "She's been busy." "It gets better," Ethan said. "She put her boyfriend down as someone who also wanted the loan. This Kevin guy has a record, 2 DUIs and a fraud charge from 2020. I took a deep breath. "What can I do?" "A few things," Ethan said. "But first, you need to decide what you want." I thought about it. I want what's legally mine, and I want her to face the consequences. Ethan smiled. "Then here's what we'll do. The next day, I drove past our house. Kevin's truck wasn't there, but Sarah's car was in the driveway. I parked down the street and watched for a while, thought about knocking on the door and confronting her, but that wasn't the plan. Instead, I drove to the bank, met with the loan officer who handled the refinance, showed him my military ID, showed him my real signature on my driver's license, and then showed him the fake papers. His face turned pale. "I'll need to report this right away." "I understand," I said calmly. "I've already filed a police report." That night, I got a text from Sarah. "Who have you been talking to at the bank?" Kevin said someone was asking questions. I didn't reply. The next day, I went to the county clerk's office and filed papers to fight the refinance because it was a fraud. I also made it official that no changes could be made to the property without me being there. 2 days later, Sarah called. I let it go to voicemail. "Marcus, we need to talk. The bank called about the house. What are you doing? If this is about the divorce, we can talk like adults." Like adults, the very same phrase from her first text. I still didn't answer. Ethan called that afternoon. "They've frozen the money from the refinance, and there's more. Your wife's boyfriend has been driving your truck, right? The one in your name." "Yeah. He got pulled over this morning for driving without a license because of those DUIs. They took the truck." "Good," I said. He also had some interesting stuff in the truck. Prescription pads from the vet clinic where Sarah works. They weren't blank. I closed my eyes for a second. She's been stealing prescription pads? Looks like it. The police are looking into it. I hung up and sat on the edge of the motel bed. This was getting bigger than I thought. Part of me wanted to call Sarah, warn her, old habits. But then I remembered the security camera footage, my house, my dog, my life being given away like it didn't matter. Nope, this was the way now. I couldn't go back, and honestly, I didn't want to. The next morning, I met with the bank's fraud investigator. His name was Thompson, a regular-looking guy with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his tie. "This happens more than you'd think," he said, spreading papers on his desk. "Husband or wife goes overseas, the other one sees a chance." "What happens now?" I asked. "We've stopped the money from the fake refinance, but there's a problem. Some of it's already gone." "How much?" "About half, around $16,000. I leaned forward. "Where did it go?" Thompson hesitated a bit. "I'm not supposed to share that. It's my house, my signature was faked, and my money was stolen." He nodded slowly, then turned his computer screen toward me. "These are the transfers out of the refinance account." I quickly looked at the list, saw several transfers to someone named David Miller, not Kevin, someone I'd never heard of. "Who's David Miller?" I asked. Thompson shrugged. "Not my department, but you should tell your lawyer to get those records." I called Ethan as soon as I left the bank. "David Miller," he repeated. "Let me check." An hour later, he called back. "Got him. David Miller is a real estate agent who does quick sales, all cash." "She was planning to sell our house," I said. "It hit me hard." "Looks like it." The deposits were probably money to get him started on listing it. But here's where it gets really interesting. Miller has worked with Kevin Baker before. Kevin Baker is that my wife's boyfriend? Yes. They've done 3 deals together in the last 2 years. I found an empty bench in a park and sat down, trying to take it all in. So, this wasn't just Sarah leaving me for some other guy. This was, what? A plan. "Maybe," Ethan said carefully. I looked into Kevin Baker some more. He seems to get involved with women who are getting divorced or whose husbands are deployed. I found 3 cases so far. Each time, the woman's house gets sold for way less than it's worth to one of Miller's clients. Baker gets a cut, then he moves on. And Sarah, did she know about this? Hard to say. Maybe she's a victim too, or maybe she's in on it. I rubbed my face. This wasn't just about Sarah betraying me anymore. This was something bigger, something planned, and other military families had been hurt by this. "What do we do?" I asked. I've already contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, Ethan said. This crosses state lines, involves military people and VA loans. They're very interested. That night, I sat in my motel room with a bottle of water, thinking about everything, wondering if Sarah had been playing me our whole marriage or if she'd just gotten caught up in Kevin's scheme, wondering if it even mattered. My phone buzzed. Sarah again. Marcus, please call me. The bank is saying something about fraud, and Kevin got arrested for driving your truck. I don't understand what's happening. I stared at the message for a long time, then I typed, "Who is David Miller?" 3 dots appeared as she started typing, then stopped, started again, stopped. Finally, "I don't know what you're talking about." $16,000, I texted back. Multiple transfers, house listing. No response for 10 minutes. Then, "It's not what it looks like." I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, Ethan called. FBI wants to meet. They've been investigating Baker and Miller for months. You're not the first one, but your case might be the one that breaks it open. For the first time since getting that divorce text, I felt something like satisfaction, not because my marriage was over, but because the truth was finally coming out. I met with the FBI agents at their office in Boise, Agents Peterson and Davies. They recorded what I had to say, took copies of all the papers Ethan and I had gathered. Your case helps us see a pattern, Agent Peterson explained. Shows they planned this, organized it, makes it a conspiracy instead of just separate incidents. What about Sarah? I asked. My ex-wife. The agents looked at each other. We're still trying to figure out how involved she was, Davies said carefully. Did she ever mention money problems, pressure to sell the house? I thought back. She kept saying we were spending too much on the house, that we should get something smaller. I didn't see the need. Our mortgage was fine on my salary. Peterson wrote something down. When did that start? About 6 months ago, around the time she must have met Kevin. And the refinance? Davies asked. She never talked to me about it. She faked my signature while I was overseas. They asked more questions, took more notes. When we finished, Peterson handed me her card. We'll be in touch. In the meantime, don't talk to your wife or Baker. We need to build this case carefully. I nodded. Okay. That evening, I drove back to our neighborhood, parked down the street from our house again. Kevin's truck was back. Must have gotten it out of the impound. Sarah's car was gone. My phone buzzed, text from Sarah. We need to talk in person. Meet me at Redwood Park tomorrow. I showed the text to Ethan over breakfast the next day. Don't go, he advised. Nothing good can come from talking to her right now. I won't, I said, but I want to know what she's doing today while she thinks I'm meeting her. We drove to our house at 9:30 a.m., parked across the street. At 9:45, Sarah came out, got in her car, and drove off towards Redwood Park. Now what? Ethan asked. Now we wait, I said. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up with a real estate agent's logo on the side. David Miller. Kevin came out to greet him. They talked in the driveway, then went inside. Should we follow them? Ethan asked. I shook my head. No need. I installed security cameras last year, inside and outside. They save everything to the cloud. Ethan smiled. You never mentioned that before. Never came up, I said, pulling out my phone. I opened the security app and turned the screen so Ethan could see. Miller and Kevin were in our living room. Miller was taking pictures. Kevin was pointing at things in the house. I turned up the volume. Should be listed by the end of the week, Miller was saying. I've already got someone interested. Cash offer as usual. How much? Kevin asked. $440. We list at $490. They offer $440. Everyone's happy. What about the husband? Sarah says he's causing trouble. Miller waved his hand like it was nothing. Military guys are all the same. They make noise, but they've got deployments, responsibilities. He'll take a settlement to make it go away. I turned to Ethan. You getting this? He was already recording the video on his phone, every word. I forwarded the security feed to Agent Peterson with a short message, "Happening now." 30 minutes later, our house was surrounded by FBI cars. I watched from down the street as agents led Miller and Kevin out in handcuffs. My phone rang. "Agent Peterson. Got them on tape talking about the whole fraud plan," she said. "Plus conspiracy, wire fraud, and trying to sell property illegally. We're going to need a formal statement from you about this, of course." "Of course," I said. "And Mr. Briggs, your wife just arrived. She looks upset." I looked down the street. Sarah was standing on our lawn, her hands over her mouth, watching as FBI agents carried boxes of papers out of our house. "What happens to her?" I asked. "That depends," Peterson said, "on what she knew and on what you want to do." I watched Sarah for a long moment. 15 years of marriage, good years at the start, before things turned into this. "I just want what's right," I finally said. The federal case moved fast. Kevin and Miller both made deals, pointing fingers at each other and several other people in what turned out to be a plan across 3 states targeting military families. Sarah kept saying she didn't know about the bigger plan, said Kevin had told her I was hiding money and planning to leave her with nothing, said the refinance was his idea, she just went along with it. Maybe that was true, maybe not. Either way, she agreed to a settlement, give back all the stolen money, give up any claim to the house or my military pension, and sign a paper admitting to the forgery. In return, I didn't press charges. The divorce was final 6 months after that text from Afghanistan. No fault. Clean break. All things considered. On the day the last papers were signed, I got a call from Agent Peterson. Kevin Baker was sentenced today, 8 years for fraud, conspiracy, and stealing identities. Miller got 12. "Thought you'd want to know." "Thank you," I said. "There's something else," she added. "We found proof they've done this to 11 other military families. Your case helped us see the pattern. Those families might get their money back because of you." After we hung up, I sat on the porch of my rented apartment, watching the sunset, thinking about those other families, other guys who went off to war thinking their homes and marriages were safe, only to come back to nothing. I hadn't planned on being the one to stop Kevin and Miller's operation. I just wanted what was mine. But sometimes things work out in ways you don't expect. My phone buzzed, text from Sarah. "I never wanted things to end like this." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to communicate. A year later, I sold the house. I couldn't stand to live there anymore. Too many memories, too much betrayal in those walls. I used the money to buy a small cabin outside of Missoula, Montana, 2 bedrooms, 10 acres of land, a creek behind it, no neighbors for miles. I took early retirement from the Army. 20 years was enough. I'd given enough. I got a dog, a German Shepherd named Scout, and started doing carpentry work for people around there. Nothing fancy, but it kept me busy and paid the bills. My military pension covered the rest. Sometimes I thought about Sarah, wondered where she ended up. Ethan heard she'd moved back to her hometown in Oregon, working at another vet clinic, starting over, I guess. I didn't hate her anymore, didn't really feel much about her to be honest. She'd made her choices, and so had I. One evening, I got a letter from a woman in Fort Worth. Her husband was in the Navy, deployed when Kevin and Miller tried to pull their scam on her. The FBI had given her my name as part of the case. "You don't know me," she wrote, "but you saved our home. Thank you for fighting back when it would have been easier to just walk away." I read it twice, then pinned it to my fridge. Some days, when the silence got too loud or the memories too strong, I'd look at that letter and remember that something good came out of all of it. Last I heard, Kevin was still in prison, and so was Miller. The system worked, for once. As for me, I was finding my way forward, one quiet day at a time, building something new, something that couldn't be stolen or faked or betrayed, something that was just mine.